Recording?
Recording in progress.
Okay.
It's recording.
Welcome to the unknown. You proposed it's a his and her talking to each other, and I like that. Hmm.
You said you had some questions for me.
Yes. And I want to give some background where I'm coming from, why I have burning questions in me and why I want to bring them specifically to you.
And let's say what today is, December the 7th, 2024.
Yes. Here in Austin, Texas. And I'm glad you mentioned the date, because I'm noticing that I'm coming to a close with 1 year of the White Widow experiment, which means that I wasn't in contact with men, and then I started being in contact with you, and I experienced it not so much as an experiment, but rather as an initiation, as I'm practicing with you to romantically relate with you and still keep my center. Which means that I don't want to adapt and still practice to like, how is it to be with you and to be close with you and to share my feelings and emotions with you, and just to relax into enjoying the hours and days I have with you. And now that, like, I consciously want, like, closing this experiment, and I'm doing research in the fields of love.
Okay, before you go into that, say a little bit more about the White Widow experiment.
Okay.
It's about energy.
Yes. Yeah. Um, my way of being with men was mainly through exchanging energy, specifically sexual energy. So I was very smiley and nice, flirty, and it was just normal, like that made me feel safe.
And when you say sexual energy, yeah, some people are probably going to think that that means something like obviously sexual.
Mm,
But the way I think of when you say sexual energy, what I think of is just kind of the vibe you would put off
yeah.
when you're that it would be different if you're around a man than if you're around a woman.
Yes.
Like you wouldn't have the same kind of smile.
Yeah.
And it's not like you're really trying to flirt or get a guy's phone number or something. It's just like your habit of just it's how to behave around men.
Yes. Yes. As a way of getting what I want, or getting the man's protection, or mainly getting his attention.
And but not consciously choosing to behave that way for that purpose, but
Yes.
unconsciously.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That was an unconscious behavior, and I had a women's team, which like I wasn't alone in this. And there's other women who already went through this initiation. They empowered me to go through it, and I'm glad you bring it like it's not a offensive or like necessarily visible sexual energy. It's very subtle. So that's why I chose to like be not in contact at all with men, so that I really can sense what was going on for me. And it takes weeks and months. It took weeks and months for me to really notice what what I unconsciously did. And from the very beginning, when I met you, like it was like a promise to myself that I won't fall back into my old pattern because I cared. It was really important for me to really deeply connect with you and not with a strategy, even if it's unconscious. Right? So I'm becoming aware of that I'm closing the space of the experiment after a year. And that means for me that as we continue relating to each other, and you said, I think it was yesterday, like it's also about how to maintain the romantic relating. I'm getting more and more really also curious while I keep my center. Like what's the male perspective? Like how is it for you? And yeah, so that's why I'm here with some questions, and I propose I start, and I feel like wherever that unfolds. Are you ready?
Yes, and I feel feared too. But I don't know what you're going to ask, and I don't know where it's going to lead.
You feel scared.
Yes.
I start with something very recent. I did an experiment inspired by you to ask one question at a time. To ask you one question at a time. Because my habit was to shoot out 10 questions and get lost in it. And I had a story I don't really receive an answer. And you proposed me to do the experiment to ask you one question at a time, waiting for the answer and then go to the next thing.
Well, I don't remember specifically proposing an experiment, but I remember at one point saying, which of those questions do you want me to answer? I think that's what
Yes.
planted the seed.
Yes. And then from there, I created it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad you bring this accuracy. So, and my question is like, how does it work for you? How was it? And I'm already doing it. Like, I ask you, how was it for you? And I was about to ask, and how was the last week? So I do a do-over. What are your feelings when you experience me asking you one question at a time?
Depends on the question. If it's a proposal or dinner, how about you propose that you could put out the spices, and then the spices you like, and then I could choose whatever proportions that I wanted. And that was a nice, clear question. And I was glad to have a nice, clear question. but sometimes I have a nice clear question and it's scary.
Hmm.
Um, or sometimes I have a nice clear question and I get angry because for depending on what the question is. Mm. Or I could get sad. Um, and let's say then it depends, and we could come back to that question after you ask me the next one. I'm assuming that that's going to be how was it when there were multiple questions?
Yes.
And so how did I feel when you would shoot more than one or two questions at me?
Hmm.
And that that varies too, depending on the questions, but a lot of times when you would present a bunch of questions, it um, um, well, sometimes when you present a bunch of questions, I would sort of get a sense that I had to be careful which one I which one I answered first. Um, and I was afraid that if no matter sometimes I'd be afraid that no matter which one I answered, if you were asking me question after question after question, it's because you weren't happy about something, and I would be afraid that no matter what I answered, that it was not going to be productive and um, and creating the kind of experience and relationship that collaborative relationship that I prefer.
Hmm.
And sometimes when you asked a bunch of questions, it's just that you thought you had one question, but then a more specific question, or you'd have a different idea, and you'd have a third question that would kind of supersede the first two, and then I could just answer the last question, and that was
Hmm.
fine. And um, so I'd be glad generally when that was the process
Hmm.
because I could see that you were getting more clarity, and then I could collaborate with you effectively
Hmm.
that way.
Hmm. Yeah, I could notice the quality in the space when you were holding space for me to actually be on an exploration,
Mhm.
like not necessarily you really wanting or needing an answer, but more being on a quest, and with you just holding the space and holding the space and not bringing a solution, I could finally just find my own clarity, and it's lands in me so empowering.
Mhm. And I'll share that what makes it possible for me to do that um, is um, like even if the first couple of questions were something that I feel sort of defensive about, I'm in the habit now of not defending myself. Um, it's like a general rule now. If I notice that I want to defend myself, that probably something else is going on, and if I take the time to figure out what else is going on, then it's probably not necessary or even relevant to defend myself about. Like if you ask, why did I clean up the lemon juice on the counter? and if I could tell from your tone of voice that you were angry about it, and um, then no matter what I answered, it was probably not going to be uh, productive. Um, a lot of times, when I'm in a situation like that, I'll say, "Well, it feels like something else is really up here," and um, I'm afraid now that I've run a little bit off the trail of multiple questions, but
You feel fear that you went off the trail.
yeah, yeah. But I was given a hint um, of like if I just give you space, like if you ask me why did I clean up the lemon juice, and I'll just look at you and and let let it unfold in you about what are you really concerned about. Sometimes I get a sense that that's would be more productive than to come back with an answer that defends myself or explains,
Mm-hmm.
logistically what happened when that's
Mm-hmm.
really not what's most important about our experience.
Mm-hmm. I feel that like this unfolding, like just looking at me and just holding the space instead of you defending yourself, also just happened, like this unfolding also just happened here, like what you called, you were off the trail. I was like, I can breathe. Like you, for me, it landed in me as spaciousness. Like I could be with you and just be curious about what do I want, like, to ask next. And I heard you using the word defensive several times, and just in the last sentence you said explain yourself. And can you say more about how is it for you as a man? What is defensiveness? You started off, bring an example, and can you say more about it?
As a man, what is defensiveness?
What is it for you?
Yeah, that's I like that question better. Thank you. Um, and mm, most of the time for me, it's about trying to be a good boy.
Mm.
And if I feel like if I feel an urge to defend myself about something, it's because something landed in me. It's like the message I'm hearing is that I did something wrong,
Mm.
which is not necessarily the message you're sending, but that's the message I'm receiving. And it's not necessarily you, it could be anybody, but
Mm-hmm. This is so great. I'm feeling joy and a little sadness of connection, because you said what you are hearing is. And just in the beginning of this week, I was in this emotional reactivity, and later you shared with me that what you were hearing, what you were hearing was XYZ. I don't even remember anymore exactly.
man,
And I'm here with my joy because I don't know if I already even shared with you, but like the impact of that was like that you didn't argue that that's what you said, Alice. Like, like, and that
hmm
and that made me like not defending myself. You just like you explained how it landed in you by using the exact words of saying what I was hearing was. And then I could
yeah,
kind of let my guards down and show myself to you. And I think I apologized.
Mhm. Um, the occasion that I remember, um, I'm, I'm glad I was conscious enough to catch it. And I remember it being more or less real time.
Mm,
And you were
mm,
trying to tell me something, and I told you, let's not discuss this anymore right now because all I can hear is this.
mm, mm,
And
mhm,
and so I was
mm,
hooked or something or triggered, and I noticed it.
mm,
And, and so basically called a timeout so that
mm.
not to, you know, escalate the
Yes,
difficulties or conflict or whatever.
yes. I want to shift the space.
Okay.
I like, for me, something is working in our relating. Like,
Glad to hear that.
and with working, I mean, like, I feel from a really adult level, I feel heard and seen and appreciated by you. And by working, I mean that I feel like connection, like a real connection, a deep connection, intimacy with you, which is nonverbal. With what is working, I mean it's an extraordinary relating. And it's a very open question. I wanna I bring it. So like, mm, yeah. Do you have like, how come it's working? Like, what is it from your side here? And I wonder if it has to do with you being centered or not adaptive. So
You're asking me, mm, what do I have about why it's working for you?
hold on. Hmm. I feel fear to ask, is it working? And I also don't want to ask a closed question. So let me source it. Let me source it.
I
Another
have a
question.
proposal.
Okay.
Why don't you ask a closed question? I should not propose that you ask.
Yes.
Not like you only get one.
Okay. Is it working for you?
I'm glad you asked. It's working. If you mean, am I glad we're together as romantic partners, exclusive romantic relationship, then the answer is yes. I'm glad we're together. I'm glad you're here. And I'm glad because of many reasons. I'm glad we're together and that you're here for many reasons. Um, and and one of the important ones is that we both have practiced and learned tools for communicating and for communicating with each other and for listening to ourselves and figuring out for myself what I want and for you to figure out for yourself what you want. And not just shallow, uh, right now, do I want a glass of water or a Coca-Cola? Um, it's more about a lot of times we think about long-term goals and what's necessary to support those kinds of goals. And I think we're compatible in that way, that we both had the skills to do it and we're both interested in doing it. And so that works for us. And along the same lines is that we have similar goals and objectives about how we want our lives to go, what we want to be doing with our time and energy and attention. Um, so that works. Um, since a lot of the audience here is probably going to be in possibility management, I can talk about the five bodies. I guess that's um, a good framework for that. And so um, the conversations and explorations I was just talking about, those are probably mostly mental, also somewhat emotional sometimes. So those are two of the bodies. And also there's an energetic body. And we seem, in my experience, we're very compatible energetically too. Um, and then the physical body, we're compatible physically too. And then so there's physical, mental, emotional, and energetic. And I also think about spiritually, and some people talk about archetypally. And I think it depends on your perspective. Those are similar or overlapping, and we're compatible in that body too. Or, and that also overlaps some with what I was saying before about what we want to spend our attention on, which gets to what is important to us, what do we think is important. Um, and part of that, and that's not all just work. And that's one of the things that I think it works for us. One of the reasons why I'm happy we're together is that um, it's not all about work. It's also about relaxing sometimes and having fun, enjoying um, uh, just physical projects like working. He helped me work on the car yesterday, and that was fun.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'll stop there.
So it's working for you and you shared about the 5 different bodies. And I love that as a possibility to check in, like how am I aligned with someone? Like just go along the 5 different bodies. And like also like my next question is something like, and how do you do that? Like, and I want to add some more to it. Like I have a sense it's about you when you put your undivided attention on me, it has an impact on me, which is larger and longer than the actual moment you put your attention on me. It's like has like it's sustainable, it nourishes me, it gives me energy, it makes me like an unfolding is happening. I get to know parts of myself I didn't know before. It puts me into a liquid state. And I want to describe more how what's happened. It's different from like I was chasing attention from men. I had mostly male friends. I surrounded myself in the corporate world mostly with men. Like I want there's some like choosiness and nectar in it. And I'm not interested in that anymore. And still I like it's magical when like a sweet nectar when you put your attention on me and it's like a melting process. And you mentioned relaxation, and it's for me so hard sometimes to relax and to let my guards down and to not be protected and on guard. And this allows me like to also like I care about having fun with you, like extraordinary fun, like mm, it's adventurous to prepare your car together with you. Like I I I I feel a lot of joy with you. So the short question, and I don't know if that's the answer or if that's part of the answer, if it has to do with your attention and my question is like how do you do that? Like how do you create the space? Like if we assume we co-create our relating.
Well, specifically with regard to my attention on you, um, appreciation is one of the principles or values that I embrace in my life. And so it, I like to appreciate things. It makes me feel good. And you are, I don't know what reasons, or just something, yeah, somebody that I like. Um, I've learned to that I love what I love, and I've learned to accept that and to listen to my heart because it tells me what I love, and I don't have to know why. And so that's part of it. And then the effect it has, don't take personal responsibility for the effect it has. And I'm glad that I read about the effect it has that other people have noticed, like Clinton Callahan wrote in the Building Love, that last book, that male attention on female partner, positive attention uh, is generally uh, this helps the woman to unfold and to blossom. And I'm glad that to have learned that that happens sometimes, and it's happening with us. I appreciate that Clinton wrote that down. A guidepost for other people to do things that work, that bring the kind of consequences that I want.
Have a more edgy or touchy, like, yeah, edgy question because it's a generalization. And still, I'm interested in your perspective. I'm interested in how can man and woman, like in a romantic relating, collaborate. I really want to know, like, how does it go? Like, what works, what doesn't work, what are the experiments? And that's our research. And I heard something along the lines that men would need women, and they really care that they really want to take care of the woman, and I feel scared to bring this in a context of possibility management, and I'm speaking from as an initiated woman to an initiated man to you. This quality of receiving is something I consciously practice with you, and which brings me immense joy, and I'm touched right now. And do men need women?
Do men need women?
Do you think about this as such?
Well, first thing that comes up mentally is what I've learned about need. And there's what do you need to survive and what do you need to be happy? Not necessarily the same things. So, what do I need to be happy? And well, I would say more important than happy is fulfilled and content. And to feel fulfilled and content, my experience so far is that yes, I need a female partner to feel content and fulfilled. And I've, I've never felt, I've always, I've never felt more content or fulfilled without a woman than I have with a woman. Uh, Generally, or in particular, but you, you make me feel content and fulfilled, or I experience the feelings of contentment and fulfillment, and you're here. So I can take responsibility for myself. But my story is that if you weren't here, I wouldn't be feeling the same.
Thank you for sharing so wonderful. I'm glad that I could bring my burning questions, and I have from this space 100 more. I I won't bring them now. Hmm. As an experiment, we've just done a quick experiment with our roommate, and I loved it. So I want to bring it as a possibility for the next week to check in with your romantic partner. And I propose this also for us to ask once per day, like, what are you angry and what are you joyful about in our romantic relation? Like, share for yourself as an example. I feel joy that you do this recording with me. And I would share this to you once per day. And this is my invitation for people to do for 1 week as an experiment and just see what unfolds and how it goes. And for the partner to listen, like no judgment or no defending.
No, just completing. You feel joy that I did this video with you.
Yes. Anything else before we close the space?
I'm going to share another example.
Yes.
So I feel angry because when I cleaned up the lemon juice, you didn't say, thanks for cleaning up the lemon juice. You said, why did you clean up the lemon juice? I was doing something wrong. That's how it landed. Angry because I don't feel like I was appreciated.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I hear you. You were angry because when you cleaned up the lemon juice, I asked you, why would you do that? Instead of simply appreciating you by saying thank you. And it landed in you as if you did something wrong.
Yes.
I'm glad you shared.
I'm glad we can share stuff like that whenever like that comes up.
Well, if we can do it, anyone can. And
it might not be easy at first.
yes,
It's scary.
Yes, I feel scared when you just, even though I have practice and we both are experienced space holders and we use the tools on an everyday basis, and like I'm navigating fear when you start with I'm angry because. So it requires for me that I'm okay with feeling fear. And that brings me at the end closer to you. And this is also how I want to close the space. Every Saturday, we meet with other couples to practice exactly that together. Mhm.
No,
Okay.
of the recording.
Yeah.